Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
One of my viewers sent me a link to a video discussing an incident in North Carolina where a 32-year-old teacher was alleged to have been involved in a consensual relationship with one of her black students. Now, in this incident, your white female teacher, Candace Taylor Ferguson, was 32 years old and is alleged to have been involved in a consensual sexual relationship with one of her black students, Elijah Daniels. And as a result of that consensual sexual relationship between the 32-year-old Candace Taylor Ferguson, who was married, and your Elijah Daniels, who was underage, it is alleged that the Candace Taylor Ferguson wound up pregnant and soon after that was making an allegation of rape against your Elijah Daniels, and he was arrested and charged as a result. Now, when I take a critical examination of this whole incident, it shows me how there are many female sexual predators out there looking to take advantage of young boys. Now, your Candace Taylor Ferguson allegedly wanted to take Elijah Daniels into her home because he was homeless, and she wanted to help him get his high school diploma. However, I'm thinking that this woman had some sort of sexual fetish she wanted to satisfy, because soon after she brought this 18-year-old boy into her home, what happened was she wound up having an affair with him. Now, oftentimes there are some teachers out there who truly do care about their students. However, there's always a boundary between that teacher and that student. And while they'll see that student possibly having to struggle with issues with homelessness, they will always try to keep that line between themselves and that student, because they know that they have to maintain their professional distance. But this teacher decided to break past her line of professional distance, and she decided to bring this boy into her home. And that's where you'll have a lot of these teachers winding up on the road to becoming sexual predators, because they don't know where the line is as related to the teacher-student relationship, and because they don't know where the line is as related to the teacher-student relationship, they wind up getting emotionally involved with their students, and this is where they wind up in trouble. And your Candace Taylor Ferguson wound up getting into trouble because she broke past the professional boundary between herself and her student. And she probably thought, oh, I'll let this boy into my home so that he can go and work towards actualizing his potential and get his diploma. Unfortunately, because this teacher did not understand the whole concept of boundaries, she didn't really understand that she was making a situation that was going to get herself into a whole lot of trouble. Because once you break the boundary between teacher and student and then let the student into your home, oftentimes this is done without any sort of set of rules as related to how that student will operate in your home. So this woman brought this boy into her home with herself and her husband, and what happened was she probably had no real rules for the boy, and the husband had no rules for the boy as well. And usually if somebody brings somebody into their home to live with them, they usually have a standard as related to how this person will conduct himself in the home, and they will also demand that that young boy go out here to get a job and be able to start paying bills or contribute to the bills of the household so they can learn how to start working towards being on their own. Unfortunately, when you have an emotionally involved teacher getting involved with her student, she doesn't understand where those boundaries lie, And what happens is she oftentimes gets caught up in her feelings about said student. And when I look at this whole situation between this white female teacher and this black student, there may have been possibly a whole interest in the black male fetish, and that black male fetish may have tempted her to look to seduce this 18-year-old boy and get involved in a sexual relationship with him. And on the flip side, the 18-year-old boy Elijah Daniels might have also been tempted by his lust as related to how he felt as related to this older woman paying attention to him, because the whole fetish of getting involved with the so-called MILF, or the so-called older woman, or the so-called teacher, this is another tempting sexual fantasy that many teenage boys have about being able to get involved with an older woman. And the whole idea of getting involved with an older white woman, this was something that was really tempting to this young boy and led to him getting involved with this woman sexually, even though this woman was married. And as a result of that sexual relationship between this 18-year-old boy and this 32-year-old woman, what happened was this white female wound up getting pregnant. And when she wound up getting pregnant with this black boy's baby, that's when everything started to fall apart, because soon after, the husband found out about the affair, and then after he found out about the affair, he then kicked the boy out of his home. And what they're saying in the reports is that this 18-year-old boy wound up going out here with a knife. This is what is alleged, that he came back to the home, then took the knife and put it to Miss Ferguson's neck, and then took her to a location in North Carolina and participated in an act of sexual violence, and then went out here and then dropped her off, and then at another location in North Carolina, and then wound up leaving her half naked in a parking lot, and then drove off with her vehicle. Now, I don't really know if I really believe that part of her story, because white females are notorious for telling lies as related to their sexual encounters with black boys and black men. And this story sounds really fishy, and it really sounds fishy because it takes place in a very, very off way. I mean, the whole story doesn't really make sense, and it takes place soon after he was kicked out of the home. So I don't know if I believe what she's saying, because the date of the offense is listed as November 28th, but many on social media believe it stems from March or April, and it could have been that this white female might have possibly wanted to go back to this black boy as related to having another sexual encounter, and then wanting to make it look like sexual violence in order to try to appease her husband. So this whole situation is a really troubling one, but it's one that a lot of black boys don't really understand or think about, because when you have some black boys out here, they're thinking that a white female is paying attention to them is a good thing, and then you have a white female in a position of power, like a teacher, paying attention to a young boy, and this is a situation that where the white female clearly is the sexual predator, but in a white supremacist society, a black boy who's put in this situation doesn't understand the target on his back. And when I look at this young boy, it's clear to me he didn't have anybody there to give him guidance. He didn't have anybody there to give him a understanding of how the world works for young black boys, or teach him the unwritten social rules for young black boys. And because he did not have any parental guidance, because he was homeless, what happened was he wound up falling into this situation with this white female sexual predator. And this white female sexual predator, what she did was lure him into a situation where he wound up being seduced by her sexually, and then wound up becoming targeted by this woman who then revised the story to make him into the villain of the situation and make herself out to be the victim. And sadly, this happened to this boy because he did not have any of the male guidance he needed or anybody there to be able to really look out for him. And this is something I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and it's also something I talk about in my books like Stop Simping, that you can easily wind up in one of these situations if you don't have any sort of man there to teach you or any man to give you any guidance, because any man or any woman out here, they're going to sit down and tell a young boy like this, you don't get involved with your teacher, because a teacher is supposed to be a leader and an authority figure, and they're supposed to set a professional boundary between themselves and their students. Now, a good teacher, yes, they'll see the potential in a young brother like this, and what they will do is give that boy the type of support that they need, like helping them with their work in school and directing them to homeless services, or help them try to find a job so that they can continue being able to start moving forward in their lives and start making efforts to get on their feet so they can continue on with their education. They're going to give them support that helps them be able to help themselves, and they're not going to go out here and break boundaries and get involved in a sexual relationship with a child, because an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, these are children, and a child is not somebody a grown 32-year-old woman wants to get involved with, because that's a relationship where the woman is looking to get power over the boy and be able to control the boy. Now, I also asked that since this boy has his high school diploma, why didn't Candace Taylor direct this young man to the military? I mean, if he has his high school diploma, he wouldn't have to do anything else but go into the military, and he would have a place to stay. He would have ample resources. And again, if she really cared about this young boy and wanted to help him work towards developing his manhood, she would have directed him towards the military so that he would have stability as related to having a, again, stable place and a stable place to start building things. But she didn't really want that. She really just wanted, again, to use this boy as related to being a sexual fetish. And then when everything got revealed, she then abandoned him and then wanted to make it look like he was a sexual predator, when in actuality she was the sexual predator, and she was the one who broke her marriage vows. And sadly, this young man got caught in the middle of this whole situation, and he got caught in the situation because he didn't have any guidance, he didn't have any real support. And that's what happens to a lot of young boys out here. They become targets of female predators, and these female predators, when they see a boy like this who is vulnerable, they're not looking to help that person. They'll pretend to say that they're going to help that person, but really they're looking for somebody to take advantage of. And what this woman wanted to do was take advantage of this young boy in order to sate her sexual fetish. And then once it got out, she wanted to abandon this young boy because the affair had been revealed, and now it looks like she may possibly be revising the story in order to make herself look like a victim so that she won't have to deal with the negative impact of having a child with this black boy. Because in many circles like those in the South, when a white female goes out here and has an affair with a black man and has a biracial baby, none of those other white men want to get involved with her. So this whole situation is again, a sad one, but it's one that really teaches many black males out here a lesson when they get involved with white women, that these white women oftentimes are not looking out for your best interests, that they will make it look like they're doing that, but in overall, these predators are looking to take advantage of people, because in this situation, this was a woman who was in a position of power, and she used her power to abuse this young boy. And this young boy, sadly, is further being abused by the criminal justice system because he got involved with the wrong woman. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, talking about these issues, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about how to avoid situations like this, you can pick up my books, The Man Crisis, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, Manginas, They Look Like Men But They Act Like Ladies, The Misadventures of Captain Save-'em, which identifies all of these female predators, and The Man Crisis on Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Simping in the Workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere.